firstly, we're going to talk about... Sorry, lost interest. Talk about vegetarians and vegans, if we may. Unusual thing for us to cover.
Yeah.
All right, now, is it possible, do you think, Doctor, to experience optimal levels of nutrition if you're a vegetarian or vegan? And do you advise becoming a vegetarian or a vegan if they want to?
Of course it's possible to have all the nutrition you need. It's just more difficult. Because you're cutting out some food groups which are very rich in iron, calcium, vitamin B12. B12, for example, is usually predominantly found in meat. So you're not going to get much B12 unless you're having fortified cereals, fortified soya, and other sources, so yeast extract, things like that.
Yeah.
You're going to get some B12. So you just have to be a little bit more knowledgeable if you go veggie or vegan, especially if you're breastfeeding or you're pregnant. You just have to make sure you're getting all the right ingredients that you need, and if necessary, take supplements.
Some people are vegans or vegetarians for one reason or another, and that's up to them. We don't get into all of that. But, I mean, I know a vegan who hasn't eaten red meat, like forever and a day. So what are the advantages of not eating red meat? What are the advantages of becoming a vegetarian or a vegan? Where's the plus?
Well, you're getting a healthy, well-balanced diet if you're sensible. Red meat, you know, depending on the cuts of red meat that you might enjoy, may contain a lot of saturated fat. If you're eating lean red meat, very little saturated fat. But you're cutting out the saturated fat, you're cutting out some of the toxins that might be present, dissolved in that fat. But you still have to be careful with the rest of the food. There's nothing per se wrong with red meat at all. I mean, I eat red meat, I enjoy it. But for some people, they make the choice for one reason or another. And you can get your protein from beans and pulses and nuts and other sources. Dairy products, if you're vegetarian and you have dairy products, but obviously if you're vegan, you don't. So you just have to be more selective about what you eat. Make sure you're getting the things that we know that many people are deficient in. For example, iron. There's a lot of iron deficiency out there. There's a lot of vitamin D deficiency. And now the NHS advice is that everybody takes vitamin D supplementation because we're not making much vitamin D from exposure to sunlight in the winter months.
Everybody takes some?
Everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
In what kind of quantities?
You're not talking, you're talking about the recommended dose, just either a mouth spray or a daily tablet, in order to boost the vitamin D that we're not making during the winter months. Vitamin D is associated with lowered immunity, and certainly we know that, for example, multiple sclerosis is more prevalent the further north you go from the equator. So, you know, it does seem to be that vitamin D may have an association with that. So we need to top up our vitamin D. We need to be careful that we get enough omega-3, B12 I already mentioned, but calcium and iron as well. Meat is a good source of those things. You have to eat very carefully to get your iron, for example, from green leafy vegetables. You have to eat an awful lot of spinach, you know. A pile of 2-foot-high spinach would equate to a sort of equivalent weight of red meat.
All right, now let's move on to something kind of in the same ballpark, food intolerances.